We are live. Are we live? Are we live? Oh, we are live. Hello, everybody. Brighton 0, Manchester United 2. Not a bad way to end the season on a win, at least. That is all we could really ask for. So it was a good 3 points to end the season. The season, obviously, not our best season. And, I think we struggled throughout that match. I think we didn't play our best. And as the title suggests, Rasmus Højlund changed that game because the substitution of Rasmus Højlund onto the pitch changed the game for us. We controlled the game a little bit more. We played a little bit better, and obviously he had an impact along with Diego Dalot in scoring the 2 goals. So those are some positives. Obviously, the negatives are Manchester City have won the league, which is always not good. For us, we don't like them. Couple things to get into the match really was I think Casemiro looked a little bit more comfortable playing in the back there alongside Lisandro Martinez. Lisandro Martinez played 60 minutes, so it was good to see him get 60 minutes, and he's going to be ready for that FA Cup final. So that's going to be important for us, of course. And Rafa Varane got some minutes on the pitch as well, so that's going to be important for us as well. Good to see him back out there. Wanted to see him at Old Trafford. Obviously, didn't make it on for the Old Trafford game, the last game of the season, but he will be there for the FA Cup final. I think Diallo was a little bit quieter today, but really the team struggled to create chances going forward for large parts of that game, basically almost the whole game up until like maybe the 70th minute or so. And yeah, we struggled. We played in a slightly different formation. I wasn't the biggest fan of the setup that Ten Hag made. It was clear and obvious that things needed to be changed at the end of the first half, and we weren't going to get those changes till later on. I thought, the Scott McTominay thing is still weird. Casemiro, I think you just see that we don't really have a player like that. Amrabat, as I mentioned, he's too slow, and this was my concern. He had a very poor game today. I don't honestly think I would start him against City in the FA Cup final. I wouldn't do it because you just can't do it. You can't do it. He's too slow. He's gonna get caught in that midfield. Like he did today. He's gonna get absolutely caught. It's gonna be bad. They're gonna outrun him. Casemiro is the more experienced player. Casemiro is the better player. I think Casemiro needs to be moved in that midfield, and I think Casemiro will be moved into that midfield because I expect Rafa Varane and Lisandro Martinez to be starting the match against City in the FA Cup final, which should shift Casemiro back into the midfield where he rightfully belongs. Not that Casemiro didn't play good today. I think Casemiro played good today, centre back, and I think he played good when he went into CDM. So he looked a lot better. Obviously, probably taking some of that criticism on board. Because he did speak out before the match started today, saying that he doesn't respect the criticism. He said he was the best. He was considered one of the best signings last year, and this year he's being criticized, saying that he has no value. But he was on that pitch today like he had a point to prove. And this is actually the difference between what an elite player is and somebody that is not an elite player. The guy's getting criticized. Obviously, nobody's really happy getting criticized. It's never a nice thing. It's never a thing to be happy about and smile about. But the difference between an elite player and somebody that is a non-elite player or somebody that is a bottler, um, an elite player will take that on board and they will go out on that pitch and they will try and prove you wrong. Somebody that is not an elite player, somebody that has a weak mentality, will let that affect them, let them take affect their game, and they will go out, or they'll kind of just give up and bottle. Ray is in here. Ray saying we pass the ball backwards more than forwards. I mean, that's an issue that needs to be addressed. Um, but how you address that, you need to address that by player recruitment in the summer. Um, Obviously, you can see, there are certain players in that squad that they are not comfortable progressing the ball. They do not have the mentality to play high intensity progressive football. They want to go backwards. They are afraid to lose the ball. They are not comfortable with the ball on their feet. And that really shows. And they need to be moved on, and we need to get players that fit the system. Wan-Bissaka is definitely one of them, and I would be advocating very much so for Aaron Wan-Bissaka to be moved on. Once the window opens, Wan-Bissaka does not fit this squad. Wan-Bissaka does not fit the project that we need to be building. He is very uncomfortable with the ball in his feet. And there was one moment in time where Wan-Bissaka took the ball and literally dribbled backwards like 20 yards, just running down the line. He was running the wrong way down the line. He's supposed to be running towards the opponent's goal, not our goal. So there's a couple players in there that they just don't fit what we're trying to do. Then you see there are other players like Garnacho and Diallo and even Rasmus and Bruno, and we have a lot of those players. When they receive the ball, they go forward with the ball. They try to move it forward. They try to make an attacking play out of it. But the disconnect you can really see is that there's a part of the team that they are not on the same page as the rest of the players that we have. And we really need to sort that out. I think big praise to Rasmus Højlund coming off the bench once again, scoring another goal, an important goal. I think he showed his worth this season. He scored 16 goals this season, his first season in the Premier League at Manchester United. A lot of pressure, a lot of weight on his shoulders, and I think he hasn't actually had as bad as a season as some might say. I don't think the criticism is really fair of him for those that are criticizing Rasmus Højlund. 16 goals in your first season after coming from Atalanta and playing in the Serie A, to coming to a Manchester United that has finished 8th, that has finished in the worst Premier League position they have ever finished in the Premier League history. I think that I will take that. I think that is a positive. I think he's showing what his potential is, and I think he's showing his worth. Ray's in here saying, we've been playing backwards, sideways for the last 10 years. When are we going to change it? Well, that's the thing. That's the thing, right? And I think that's a valid point. And we have been playing sideways and backwards for the last 10 years. And that's the problem. How, you can't expect the manager to come in here and change it when we've been buying players that play in that way. It starts with the players. Pep Guardiola, when he came into Manchester City, he tried to implement his way, and if you remember, it didn't really go well for him in his first 2-3 seasons. The same thing for Klopp. Why? Because they didn't have the players that had the ability to play in their style. And unfortunately, since we had such poor player recruitment over the years, we don't have the players. So it doesn't really matter the manager unless you get a manager that plays drop back, counter attack, and just sit back and do this sideways passing, this backwards passing, this holding the ball. But Erik ten Hag is not one that wants to play in that way. So that's why at times it's been bad this season. He's stubbornly stuck with trying to play in the way that he wants to play, like passing out of the back and, building up from out of the back. And it has cost us at times. But at the same time, I think he is making a point and he is sticking to his philosophy. And he's making it very clear that, listen, I intend on playing in this certain way. And these players will either have to learn how to play in this way, and the ones that cannot adapt and the ones that cannot do it, which they have shown that they can't because we've come to the end of the season and they have not learned how to do it, they need to go, and I need different players that fit this system. I think it's very, very clear that we cannot play in a certain way with what players we have. And this is why I will keep emphasizing that the player recruitment this summer has to be spot on. Ineos cannot afford, and Manchester United cannot afford to buy the wrong players. They cannot afford to miss out on certain players. They need to go get the targets. They need to go get the players that fit this team, that complement the other players that we have in the squad. We have a good core of young players, a good group of young players, and we have a couple senior players that we can use going into next season. And I think we need to look at that, and I think we need to build and add to that. And everybody else has to go. I think it's a very difficult thing. It's a big job to do. The Glazers have left us in an absolute mess. And it's going to be a difficult job. I don't know how these things are going to go per se. So we'll see. But we all know the job that's at hand. We all know that, there's probably at least 10 players that need to be moved on. We probably need 6 or 7 players in. I don't know if we're going to get that done, but we need to figure out how we're going to do that. Obviously, Jason Wilcox and Sir David Brailsford were at the match again today, analyzing the match, analyzing the players. So I expect them, to be moving on this as soon as the final whistle of the FA Cup blows. We should be going right ahead with business. There is no sitting about. There is no wasting time here. Not this season. We cannot afford it. You see how far behind we are, and yes, we've had injuries, and that has definitely affected our league position. Because at the end of the day, I don't think we're as bad as an 8th place. We've certainly played like it at times, but over 60 something injuries this season. It's impossible to get a top 4 finish in that way. I think Diego Dalot is a very important player. I think Diego Dalot has to stay. Diego Dalot, definitely, you can see it's players like him, it's players like Rasmus, it's players like Kobe Mainu, it's players like Garnacho. Even though Garnacho has become very frustrating, and Ray mentioning Garnacho was struggling, he should be rested for the FA Cup. Yeah, but you know what? I don't even know if it's the resting part. I think it's just the fact that he needs to realize, and somebody needs to help him out there, that he's trying too much. Or not trying too much, but he's forcing things. Before it was coming naturally to him because he was going out there and he was just playing naturally. He's now trying to force. He's trying to force an impact instead of just playing his game. And somebody has to just pull him to the side and be like, stop playing stupid. Stop forcing shit and just play your natural game and take what comes to you on the pitch. If there's a pass, you make the pass. If you get a shot, if you have the space for a shot, if you're in a position, take the shot. But he's forcing too much. He's forcing too much, and you could see it because he wants to make an impact on the game. But the problem is when you force those things, you're making the wrong decisions and you're not getting the outcome you want, and then it gets more frustrating. And I think he's getting frustrated. And this is one of the problems, that he is a young guy and he needs to learn, and somebody needs to help him understand this. And this is a problem where we lack kind of maybe with our senior players, because our senior players, a lot of them, like a Marcus Rashford, for example, he is struggling himself. And Marcus Rashford needs to figure out things for himself. So it's hard to grab a senior player in there and get their arm around Garnacho and tell him exactly like, hey kid, listen, this is what you got to do. You need to relax a little bit. You need to do, what you really need to do. This isn't, like how we had back in the day. I mean, like, and to be fair, back in the day, I mean, like, they would, our players would humble you. Roy Keane, all those players, Neville and all of them, you walked into the squad and you did something absolutely fucking stupid, or you did something that wasn't up to a quality. Not only are you're gonna get abused from them. They're gonna let you fucking know. And I don't know if we really have that right now. I don't see that in the squad. Maybe from a Bruno. But I don't see too many players in there that have that type of influence over these younger players, really. Um, Especially, like, for me, the dynamic would be hard for, like, I get it. Marcus Rashford's been there. He's been through it all. Um, he's been in the senior team for quite some time now. But the problem with that is that he's not playing well. So it's like, how does he go and tell Garnacho what to do? When Garnacho's had a better season than him. You know what I mean? So that's something else we need to fix. The standards are on the floor pretty much. Um, you know, and I think it wasn't a great match, but we did pull through. And we have some positives in there. Again, Rasmus scoring a very nice goal. Coming on, taking his chance, showing what he's about, showing what he can do. He was very direct. I think he was very, very good. Um, and he's just proven himself a little bit here at the end of the season before the season ends that, you know, I do have quality and I can score a goal. I need my chances. I need, to I need something. I need service. I need you guys to look for me. Um and he hasn't got too much of that, which is sort of, a letdown, but hopefully this can be sorted out next season. Obviously the big talk still is that nobody knows if Ten Hag is actually going to be here or not. I would personally stick with Ten Hag going forward after this season. The manager market is not great. Obviously, Roberto De Zerbi is available. He was somebody that his name was mentioned earlier on, and is probably being considered by the Manchester United hierarchy at this point, since they have considered multiple managers. Some of the managers definitely under Roberto De Zerbi's qualities, so I wouldn't be surprised if his name does come out in the next day or so. I think there might already be some talk about it now, um, especially after that match. And I'm just looking for some news, some quotes from the team. So Eric Ten Hag, speaking about Saturday's FA Cup final, he said, talking about all the things we had to suffer this season, it was good to bring players back. They worked hard, desperate to play the final games of the season, and especially the final next week. We get options, and hopefully we will have a good week, and everybody is on board. We will put a competitive team out, and we will fight for this cup. So again, Ten Hag coming out with the fighting words. He also went on to say, he's speaking on Manchester United's worst finish in the Premier League, which is what we did this season. It's what we accomplished, which is unfortunate because, that sucks that it has to go under his name under the circumstances, especially when you compare it to last season, where we finished, how we did it. You know, it's definitely just sours the positive result, I guess, from today. But he went on to say it's not good enough by far. Although we had less than 60 points 2 years ago, 58 points, eighth is the worst performance. It is the truth, but we should have done better. We know the reasons behind. Everyone knows, but it's not the right moment to go into it. It's not good enough. So I think he's sort of alluding to there that listen, um, we all know that eighth place is a shit finish. It is a disaster finish. Um, he knows it's not good enough. He knows there's the disappointment and the anger behind this, and that this should never be a thing. But he is alluding to the fact that we just don't have the squad. You've seen the injuries we got, and unlike other teams, for example, like a Brighton, even Brighton struggled. Brighton did have a lot of injuries, but the difference between Manchester United and a Brighton is that Brighton recruit far better than us and have recruited way better than us. So when their players do get injured, they still have their backup players still fit the system. They can still play the system and the football that they are used to playing. Um, and unfortunately, we do not have that luxury because we accumulated a bunch of individuals that play a totally different style or don't even fit the style at all over a certain amount of years. And when we lose our main starting 11, it starts looking really shaky and it starts looking really bad because they cannot do what we need them to do. So it is really unfortunate. But that is the reality of our situation. And it's unfortunate because we have been run like shit. That's why. We should never be in this circumstance. We should never be in this position. And this is why Ineos have the biggest job in the entire world because you have to undo 11 years of absolute terrible, horrible decisions and just running a club like complete shit. Um, do I expect them to completely undo it in one transfer window? No, but we need to do enough that can get us back into a stronger position so that the following summer window we can go and elevate ourselves even higher because Villa are now in Champions League. Villa are gonna get that Champions League money, and they're gonna improve. And Emery is a good manager. He's done good at Villa. Ange Postecoglou plays a good type of football. I don't know what Spurs' plans are in the transfer market, but we have to look at that as well. The guy plays really good football, and I expect him to reinforce for his style of play and the way he wants to play football. There's a lot of teams that are coming up, and we're already behind the pace clearly because we finished in eighth. Albeit the injuries are a major problem, and nobody really wants to talk about the injuries besides us. But every other team out there, every other fan of another team, they cry when they lose one or two players of their main players. But then when it comes to us, they don't want to acknowledge the fact that we had 65 fucking injuries. That's why we finished in eighth. I highly believe, even at times when we didn't play great, if we didn't have the injury crisis that we had, we wouldn't finish in eighth. Would we be, third place? I don't think so. We probably could have got the top four, but it was not. It's impossible. It's impossible. If any team suffered what we suffered, whatever position they're in, they're dropping like 3 or 4 positions easily. I mean, it really did screw our season over, and we need to figure that out as well. We need to figure out what is wrong with the medical department. There's so many things that need to be done. And Eric Ten Hag went on to say, we changed something at halftime, and after that we had more control. And in the end, the win is okay. I mean, the win was okay. Like, it wasn't a great display for like about even 60 minutes, I would argue. 65 minutes. But I think we did what we did. There's a poll here with 7,311 votes from one of the Manchester United aggregator accounts. It says, keep Ten Hag, sack Ten Hag. Right now, as of right now, 61.7% of people have voted to keep Ten Hag and instead of sacking Ten Hag, which is actually very encouraging because it does show that the fans are aware that listen, we are not fools here. We know it hasn't been great. We demand better, but this isn't just 100% the manager. We're not ready to just throw this manager under the bus and blame everything on him. He's made some bad decisions. Every manager makes some bad, poor, weird decisions. But at the end of the day, we know that there are bigger problems than the manager right now. There's obviously the players that need to be dealt with. There's all types of stuff inside of the club, the facilities, the medical staff, the rest of the staff at Manchester United, whether it's coaches, tactical coaches, set piece coaches, everything needs to be addressed. The scouting department, there's so many different problems that need to be addressed. And it's just not on the manager. This is a club. It's a project. Everything goes hand in hand together, and everything needs to be firing on all cylinders. And when you look at the options out there, there's not many managers that I think you could take over Eric Ten Hag. I just don't think it's a great manager market, So I don't know, what you would necessarily do with that. But we really need to figure it out. And the FA Cup final, I just don't think that we are. I don't know. I think our best chance and the way we need to go in there would really need to be we need Rafa at center back. We need Martinez at center back. We need Delo. I would love if we had another person we could put at left back. Obviously Delo has been playing fantastic, and he's getting on the score sheet. I actually think Delo is playing better on the left than he does on the right. My problem is Aaron Wan-Bissaka playing on the right, because right now, if we had somebody else available, I'd be benching Wan-Bissaka because he's playing like absolute dog shit, and I don't think he should be playing. We need Casemiro in that midfield, and I don't want to see Marcus Rashford starting that game. I have a fear that he's gonna start him. And I think what Eric Ten Hag's gonna do is he's going to start Marcus Rashford on the left. He's gonna push Garnacho to the right. Diallo's gonna go to the bench. Rasmus will most likely start up top. And we will play with Casemiro, Bruno, and Mainu. And I won't be happy about that because, again, I don't think Rashford deserves the start at all. I don't think he does. So, and just looking at the lineup here, like, just looking at what we have here, we could do. There are talks that we're gonna go for Elise. So we have Højlund. We need another striker. Then there would be, because I don't think Marcus Rashford is going anywhere, so it would be Rashford, Garnacho left, Elise, Ahmad right. I don't know what you do with Anthony. If we get Elise, they have to get rid of Anthony. Surely, I mean, there's no way. Like, how are you gonna keep him? It would be one too many wingers, probably, in my opinion. But I don't know what you do about that. Bruno, you would have Bruno and Mount, Mainu, right? And then what do we do in the midfield? Because for me, Scott McTominay needs to go. Amrabat's no good. I wouldn't keep him on, and I would probably again, I would sell Casemiro. So that midfield has basically become a giant void. We would need like another 2 or 3 players in the midfield, because you really have Mainu that you could play him defensively, box to box. But what do we do going forward? Sandy's in here. Sandy, good to see you on the last day of the Premier League season. Good evening. Very happy. I hope and next season, if we can be active and buy the players, because that's the weakness which we have in buying players. We are too much behind on making deals. Absolutely. That's what I said, in the beginning of the show, is that we need to get the player recruitment right. We are where we are mostly for the part due to the poor player recruitment over the past 11 years. Um, that needs to be 110% addressed. That's for me the starting point, the starting base for the project at hand that Ineos have. We need to get that right. We need to get the players, whatever players we get. I don't even care solely based on their name. Obviously, I care more, a little bit more on ability and what they can do on the pitch. Um, but we need to get this correct, because this is what has been killing us. This is the reason why we have been so bad, mostly. Obviously there's other mitigating factors, but it is, to me, one of the most important things there is. Um, I think we are going to buy smart, right? I think we are going to buy smart. I just think that the guys that we have in charge now, compared to who we had in charge, it's like the sun and the moon. Like it's two totally different things. Now the guys that we have in charge, when you compare them to other people, at different clubs like Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, etc., how they stack up against each other, that's yet to be seen, in my opinion. Are they the best in the entire world? Maybe not, but I think they might be the best possible available that we can get. And certainly, it's definitely levels ahead of what we had. And I just don't think there's any possible way for us to operate any worse than we've been operating. This is why I expect an improvement. I expect an improvement in a lot of different areas. The guy Jason Wilcox and even Dan Ashworth, if you look at their history, if you just look at what they done and what they were involved in at the clubs that they were involved in, they have very excellent just backgrounds. They've been involved in good positive things. They've worked with certain younger talents that they helped to bring through. And so I think that there is no way that we don't have some type of an improvement going forward. I just don't see how it doesn't happen. It has to happen, because we were basically just not doing any good job at all. And I think these guys, there's no way that they can do worse. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. How good of a job they're gonna do is more of the question. How good of a job is it going to be? Is it going to be good enough to elevate us to a point where we can challenge for the title? Is it going to elevate us to a point where we are playing like some of the best football in the league and, we look very dangerous? That is more of the question. It's not so much of, are they going to do good business that's going to improve us? It's going to be by how much are they going to improve us? And I still think it should be a substantial amount. Um, because again, just look at what we've done over the past 10, 11 years. There was nothing concrete. There was no actual plan. The club lied. They make these rare bullshit statements. We're doing a rebuild. This is the project. It takes 3 seasons. But you look at the way we were operating, and it was like there was never no real plan behind their words. It was just all bullshit. It was all fake. It was all just to get the fans on board and string them along. And then when it got bad, they would throw it all on the manager and fire the manager, and they would start again. That was always the number one plan, because they knew there is no positivity like when you have a new manager, because the fans have no option really but to give the manager time and back him, right? Like if we sacked Eric Ten Hag, whatever manager came in, there would be more support behind that manager, and that manager would get another 1 or 2 years behind him, more than Eric Ten Hag would, because Eric Ten Hag's been here for 2 years. The first season went good. The second season has been a total disaster. And some people are fed up with him. But if you get the manager, if you get a new manager, the fans are more reluctant, or not reluctant. They're more willing to to get behind this guy and be more patient. Um, look at Sandy saying, how many times are we going to be crying looking for serious people who can take our crap going up? We hope so. No, I mean, listen, we have some, the people that are in charge now are some serious people. They I don't think they are playing any games. But again, they have a very, very big job at hand that they have to do, and it is a large ask, and I already know going into it, it's not gonna be fixed in one transfer window. It's not gonna be fixed in 1 year. You look at the clubs around us, look at what they did, and look how much time it took them. I mean, it took Arteta 4 seasons to challenge, and he still can't win it because they didn't win it, but they play very good football, and they're at least challenging, and they're in Europe. But it took 4 seasons. It took Klopp about three seasons, 4 seasons. It took Pep about 3 seasons. Um, it's gonna take some time, but we need to keep our eye on the ball here. Look at the past. Look at who we bought. What was the signing of Van de Beek? What was that plan? What was the signing of Sancho, really? What was the signing of a lot of players? I like Diallo, and Diallo's part of the squad, but where was the plan for Diallo when we signed him? What was the plan for Palestri when we signed him? Where did they fit into that squad at that current time? How did that help the manager at that current time? There was no plan. And this is what I'm saying. And I heard Sir Jim say it on a couple different times, and he did say that no, there was no successful manager. There was no successful manager because the environment is not set up for a manager to be successful, and I think he should remember that when he's going to make a decision on this manager, because how would you want Eric Ten Hag to do good if the environment, and for a fact the environment has not been set up for any manager to be successful? Ray saying we need to buy first choice, not fourth choice players. It's not even about. I don't even think it's about first choice though. Like, what is first choice? You're not always gonna get the first choice. The issue, the bigger issue is the planning. Like, for example, like when you go and you want this guy, right? Because you're not going to get every player. It's just not it's impossible. And especially our position, we don't even have that power anymore. This is in United in 99. This is in United in 2002. We don't have that power where we can just go and take whatever fucking player we want because we're on top of the world, and they most likely want to come with us. The problem is again, it's the recruitment and the decision making and the planning. If you have a player that is your main target because of certain qualities, abilities, mentality, attitude, and all that shit, if you can't get him for whatever reason, if we can't afford him because of the money, if he doesn't want to come to us because he decides he wants to go to a different project, the player that is your number 2 choice has to have similar qualities to the first player. Not just you panic and go buy a random player. I think that is our problem. We wanted Declan Rice. Why was there no plan to just, in case we don't get Declan Rice, there's somebody that is in a similar quality of a Declan Rice that we would go and get? In the case of that we didn't get Declan Rice, if we wanted Harry Kane, why was there no option for somebody similar to a Harry Kane or something like that? Like, our planning and our things are just so bad. I mean, look at what they did in Ten Hag's first season. In his first summer, there was no plan. He had his plan, but they didn't follow suit with the plan. he asked for Anthony in June. Could have got him for 35 million. They told him no. We lost. They panicked. They shit themselves. They spent 85 million on the fucking 2 days before the window ends. Why? Because there was no plan. If there was Anthony and you thought Anthony was too, how did you not have somebody else to go get for him? Is what I'm saying. And this is why we need to plan better. But I think Ineos, the way they run themselves, the people that are involved, these guys are not, they're not like that. They are not going to panic. They seem very thought out. Things seem very calculated in the way that they are moving about. They are not what we had. They are not going to do what we had. And for me, I am okay with getting players that nobody knows who their fucking name is. I don't care about marquee signings. I don't want to see. I actually don't want to see United go and spend fucking 80 million on one player, because we can't do it. We can't afford to do it. We've been doing it and it hasn't worked, and it's led us down the path where we are. We need to build a squad. We need to build the squad. Once you build the squad and we improve our position in the league, right? Then we should be in a position where you start nitpicking one or two players and identifying them and say, this guy is going to change our entire team. This guy is going to fucking elevate us to that next level, right? Kind of like how Fergie used to do it. When he did have the squad, he had the good core, he had the good group of players, but then he would say, I'm missing one piece or two pieces here. And he would go and identify the fucking player, right? And be like, this guy, you spend the money on that guy. Because that guy is going to take this good group, this good core of players I have, and it's going to elevate the team as a whole. You don't just go and buy one player for fucking 80 million because he's talented, and that's great. Okay, so we're going to have a diamond covered in a bunch of shit. What's the point? There's going to be shit all around the diamond. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what we did in the past anyway. Like, we're signing players, like signing fucking Paul Pogba for whatever we signed him for, 80 million, whatever it was. You get a player like Paul Pogba that was that talented, but the rest of the squad was not up to the standard. So what was the point of making that signing? Because you just blew 80 million on a player, and then we're gonna finish in fucking 6th or 5th and not finish in Europe, and we're gonna lose money, and then we can't afford to go forward. So, you know, a lot of these problems that we've seen in the past, I don't expect Ineos to repeat them. Now, I think, you know, of the targets that I mentioned, Jaron Branthwaite, Elise, I think their plan, if you look at it, they are trying, Torsen from Fulham, they are looking at proven Premier League players to build some type of a core group of players. I would expect the second transfer window under them to be slightly different, but I think the path that they're trying to go down, I do think is the correct one. I think that is what you have to do. You have to build a good, strong core of players. I think it's less of a gamble to go and get these players from Premier League teams that have already played in the league. You analyze them. They've played against every single team in the league. You can see all their performances against all the teams. And it's not that much of an adjustment period. I think it's more of a gamble when you start going all over Europe and you start bringing in players and you don't know how well they're going to adjust to the league, if they can adjust to the league. They might need a year or so to adjust to the league. Or they might not work out at all. And I mean, we have a couple players just like that. Amrabat is one. I don't think Amrabat can play in the Premier League. I think he's far too slow. Anthony doesn't have the qualities to play in the Premier League, you know. And even a player like Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho, you know, goes to Germany, plays at Borussia Dortmund, and he seems to be fucking great, but he seems to have a problem in the Premier League. Whatever. I mean, you know, he was at City. Pep fucking let him go. He came to us. He underperformed. a lot. So I think we need to really just get in a good core. I think the goal for Manchester United going into next season is to build a solid group, a solid core of players, make an improvement, try and get into some position of Europe. Um, Obviously, preferably the Champions League. If not, you go into the Europa League, and then you go again the following season. Um, but obviously, things can go in different directions. I mean, if we sell a lot of players and we get a lot of funds, then maybe we can buy two big name players or whatever it is, or players that are up there in high quality but are going to cost you a very big fee. Um so, I think those things is what we need to focus on. Obviously, we still have the FA Cup final. I really don't feel so confident about the FA Cup final, but then again, it is an FA Cup final. Anything can happen. Um, but we need to field our best team to have a chance. And I still worry that he is going to put Marcus Rashford in there um when he shouldn't be. And that would be very disappointing to me, because me Garnacho Diallo should be playing. Um yeah. Just checking news. Deserby talking about the match, saying we had a lot of chances to score, especially in the first half as well. First part of second half, we were playing in the same way. We closed the first half, but when you made mistakes in the last part of the pitch, it can happen against these big teams to lose the game and concede a goal. And that's another thing. I see a lot of people, they want Deserby. A lot of people still saying they want Deserby. They want Deserby to come in for Ten Hag. Um, Number one, there is a reason why Brighton have decided to part ways with Deserby. They had Deserby on a 10 million buyout clause. Now Deserby might go to a Barcelona, he might go to a Bayern, he might go to a Juventus. Um, but again, if we're talking about operating as a proper football club, and a lot of people have stated that Brighton operate way more in a manner of a proper football club than Manchester United have in the past 11 years. What is the reason that Brighton have agreed to mutually terminate his contract? They could have got they could have got paid, right? They could have got paid for the 10 million. They could have got paid. They waived that because they have a plan that they are going to bring in somebody. They've seen that it is not going well under De Zerbi, and they are changing their project in a certain way. They are moving with quickness. They are not wasting time. They announced it before the season ended, right? I assume they already know who they're gonna get. And they already have a plan in mind that they're moving forward with. De Zerbi has won one out of his last 10 matches at Brighton. So I don't, and Brighton are structured better than us. Why do people expect Roberto De Zerbi to just come in and implement his style of football when Manchester United have not operated correctly for the past 11 years? So it's Ten Hag's fault he can't implement his style of football. But De Zerbi, who has his style of football but then can't get the results at a club that operates better than us, he's the better manager. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not sold on him, and I'm not sold on the fact of that Ten Hag should go. I think Ten Hag should get one more season. Ineos have their backups. Ineos have their people available. And the next season, obviously, you would see going forward what else becomes available. I think there would be more options than we have. Um, Sandy saying, "This is why I love you, because you only saying the truth." Well, I appreciate that. And I just say how I see it. Whether it's may be correct, incorrect, but I'm not always right. I just give my opinion, but I try to be as genuine as possible, and I just give how I feel and what I see and what I think. I don't say things for clicks. I don't say things for attention. I don't do that. I try to keep it as real as possible for me. Um, Sandy's saying, you people remember that Manchester United. He's not a smoke crab. Brighton is a smoke rub. Um, you love your food, Sandy, don't you? Always make your food references. Um, Let me see. Just checking for some more news because there was quite a lot of quotes that came out after the match, and I kind of lost them here. So I'm just looking. Pochettino looks like he's gonna stay at Chelsea. Eric Ten Hag is talking about match tactics here. He said we swapped our sixes from the sides, left and right. That was important. We had a lot of problems defending João Pedro in the first half, but when we had more control, we were better on the ball. You see the goal, it was a movement in behind. The first half was too static. Yeah. I mean, but the problem with that is that it's static because of the fucking players we have. Again, I already mentioned this, like I mentioned in the beginning. There's too many of our players. They want to go fucking backwards. They run like Aaron Wan-Bissaka literally ran backwards, like 15 yards with the ball in his feet, running down the line, like running the wrong way. Like that's that's an epitome. Ray's saying it seems we always wake up for a big game. I hope we do it next Saturday. Yeah, that's another thing about this team. We when we play City, when we play Liverpool, when we play Arsenal, even when we played Villa and Villa were doing better than us, and it was considered a big match because Villa were really in form, and they were playing absolutely fantastic. We go into these matches and we turn up, and this is another problem. And I don't know where you put the actual blame here, because technically the managers should be getting that out of them at all times, or as much as possible, right? That is the job of a manager. But at the same time, we know that a lot of these players are not up for it. They're not strong mentally. Um, they are weak. And they've showed that at times. So it's like, how much and where do you really put a lot of that blame? Uh, because obviously when you want to compare, it's like Ferguson, man manager, and he made sure of things like that they were always ready and up for it. Obviously, it wasn't just always they were on top. They had fucking points where bad performance, they were awful, they got embarrassed, they got completely and utterly destroyed on the pitch. And you make adjustments to that. But at the same time, the players that he had, those were fighters, those were warriors. They had mentality, they had fight in them, they had grit. And when you look at the players that we have, I would argue, and I think a lot of people would argue, that a, a good majority are nowhere fucking near that. So obviously the players ain't up for it. And then it's like, well, then you also have to look at the manager, because the manager's job is supposed to be to get the best out of the group of players that he has. So I think obviously I would put more blame on the players. And Hag gets a little bit of blame for it because he's the manager at the end of the day. Lyle's in here. Lyle, good to see you. Saying, hey Reds, just dropped by to drop off a like and wish everyone a better season next year and good luck at Wembley next week. Can't stay, gotta catch up on sleep. Work's been hectic. Well, I appreciate that, Lyle, for you coming in, dropping the like. That's very important. By the way, I didn't mention, if you can, smash the like button for me. It was good to hear from you, Lyle. Definitely catch up on your sleep. Um, you know, I know it's tough when you're working a lot of hours and you ain't getting that sleep, so go get that sleep. It was a good ending to the Premier League season. Hopefully we'll see you after the FA Cup final. Hopefully, we can win it, and we'll be doing the Red Devil recap after the FA Cup final as well. And then, of course, we're going to be keeping up with all the transfer news and, as we go into the transfer window going forward. So once the FA Cup final is done and dusted, we will be doing all the transfer news. So we appreciate you, Lyle. Take care. Appreciate your kind words. Appreciate you stopping by. It was good to hear from you. And I'll see you probably next Saturday or maybe on a show in between the week. So thank you, and we'll see you. We'll see you then. Ray saying we need some passion, like 1977. We lost against Southampton, and in 76, 76, and would be the best team in 77. That was Liverpool for the FA Cup. Remember, we stopped Liverpool from making the triple. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if we have. Listen, they're gonna be up for it, but this is what happens when it comes into question. There's some players they have weak mentality. There's other players they have stronger mentality. They don't have the fucking ability. It is a mismatch all over the pitch, all over the squad. Some of the players have a very good, strong mentality. For example, I would argue Harry Maguire, I think, has a very elite mentality. Harry Maguire has been good this season, but he's been good this season. We needed him good for the past like 4 seasons, and he wasn't always that great. In fact, at times he was very, very bad. Um, Even somebody like Scott McTominay, I think Scott McTominay has a good attitude. I think he has a good mentality, but Scott McTominay don't got the fucking ability. So it doesn't necessarily help. Um, then I think there's somebody like Bruno who has the ability and he has certain aspects of a certain mentality. Like the guy wants to win and he always gives 100% and never stops. But there's probably a little bit of problems with his thing where he gets too frustrated and he needs to learn how to keep his head a little bit more. That's his problem. Rashford is just like you don't know what's wrong with the guy. He's up one season, down the next season. I know he had a lot of personal things that went on in his life this season. Um, Seems like the off the field shit is really has affected him, probably amongst a couple other things. Plus, when you factor in, he's getting criticism a lot, and rightfully so, because he's been bad, but also his own criticism of himself, his own pitch performances. Everything together hasn't been good for him, and it's really dragged him down into the mud. So, how does he go into this match uh, with the correct mentality? I think he'll have the attitude for it. I think he'll want to win. I think he'll want to fight. I think, he'll want to go out there and prove people wrong. Um, but inside, when you're on that pitch inside your own head, what's going on inside your own head? Can you clear that self-doubt? Can you clear those voices out of your head for those 90 minutes and focus on the match and perform the way you need to perform and make the correct decisions? And these are problems that we probably gone through all year, but it has definitely been an issue. And by the way, I see that we have about 8 likes. So everybody that's liked the video for me, thank you. I greatly appreciate that. Um that's very good. Um I just wanted to check to see how long we've been running here for because I don't want to overrun this, and I do got some things to do, and we will be back. So, well, we hit an hour? We have hit an hour. So I'll just quickly go through a couple things, make sure that no breaking news has come out while we've been live because sometimes they do stuff like that. But I feel like we're not gonna get it today because it's the end of the season and it's weird. Um, I guess man of the match, I would probably give it up to over a 90-minute performance. I would give it to Diego Dalot. Um, for having probably the biggest impact for me would be Rasmus Højlund. When he came on the pitch, he changed the game. It changed the game, and he just made a direct impact influence. Getting on the ball was very direct, especially the goal he scored. He almost got an assist, couldn't get the pass off to Garnacho, unfortunately. But he heavily impacted that game, and he definitely certainly made a direct influence when he came into the match. So I would give it to him based on that. But for me, Diego Dalot had a very, very, very good, solid 90-minute performance. I think he played well in defense. I think Dalot, he scored the first goal to put us in the lead, and I think it was a very good goal. Excellent run, good control, excellent finish. So I think over 90 minutes, Diego Dalot definitely deserves it. Højlund deserves it for biggest impact. Coming off the bench and just making a huge impact on the match. Um, I don't see like too many. Yeah, here we go. Let me just pull up any of these quotes. Uh, bu- 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 uh, yeah. So just to round this off, just so we could round this off. Rasmus Højlund, 21 years old, debut season in all competitions, 42 games played, 16 goals, 2 assists. Um, I take that for him. I take that as a positive. I think that is very positive to come into Manchester United to have your debut season. You're taking a huge step in two different directions. Number one, you're going from the Serie A, which is a slower paced league, and it's probably a little bit less physical than the Premier League. You're coming in um, to Manchester United. Manchester United compared to Atalanta is not even close in terms of um, just exposure and all that and pressure and all of that stuff. You come in there, you probably weren't supposed to be the main man at the striker position. You end up being the main man because of the lack of operating correctly at Manchester United. Um, you know, he had to deal with a couple injuries here and there in and out of the team because of the injuries. So that kind of messes up your flow and all that stuff. Um, and I think he did good. I think he did good. I think Rasmus scoring 16 goals and getting 2 assists in 42 games for a Manchester United that finished in 8th place in the worst possible position we've ever finished in the Premier League era. I think is definitely a positive to take away, and I look forward to him contributing more next season and just being way better. Um, man, this is Manchester United's lowest league position since 1989, 1990, which is something that you never want to hear. Uh, you know, but yeah, pretty much it. There hasn't really been any news. Now, here's something that's interesting that's being brought up. So Ineos are looking at this as a long term project. The point in view is, and something that we have to think about. And I'm not advocating for the change to happen. I'm just saying this is things that we need to also look at. We're looking at it one way. We need to look at it another way. Ineos are viewing this as a longer term project. They're looking at it at about 3 year, like a 3 year run to get back to some type of consistency at the top. Um, Eric Ten Hag only has 1 year left on his contract. To keep Eric Ten Hag, you have to go into next year. Um, it is still sort of a problem when you go into next season and you have Eric Ten Hag with his 1 year left on his contract, and there is no commitment to their long term plan, which is it's the problem, because Ten Hag would be on his third season without a new contract. He would have to be judged based on that rather than the start of a new plan. You cannot go into a season thinking he could be replaced during the year. That's probably not a very good outcome for all parties. It wouldn't be good for him. It wouldn't be good for the players. So going into his final year of his deal would be a risky approach that isn't consistent with the overall vision, and this is something that we have to keep in mind. And I think that it might be why one of the reasons why Ineos have not actually made a decision, because I think if they're viewing this as a long-term project, Ineos would probably have to give Eric Ten Hag some type of a contract extension. It wouldn't be good for himself, and it wouldn't be good for the aspect of the club. I mean, I could see the headlines now. You know, we could be about 8 to 10 games into the Premier League season. Maybe we're not doing great. Maybe we're in sixth. Not a great start. They're running headlines. Eric Ten Hag's going to be sacked. Eric Ten Hag's going to be sacked. Eric Ten Hag needs to be sacked. You know, maybe the players stop playing for him. They would have to probably give him a new contract to solidify his position and be like, no, this is the plan. We are going forward and we are sticking with him. And I don't know if many people would actually want that. Everybody's saying give him one more season and see how he does. But the aspects of it is, is that really the best possible solution? Is that really the best possible solution? A manager in his final contract year will be far more likely to be forced to abandon long-term building principles in favor of short-term results because they don't have job security. Manager being on trial isn't the right way to build a foundation, and I think that is absolutely 110% correct. I think it's one way to certainly look at it. So, and probably on that note, we'll leave you to ponder that. We will see. We will see. We will see you sometime during the week. We're probably gonna kick off the transfer stuff. So yeah, I see that the mic is crapping out. I don't know what's wrong with this thing. I don't know what's doing this. But let's just end the show there because it's very pain in the ass. So anyway, thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Sorry if the feedback noise is annoying, whatever. I don't know why it does this. It's something from OBS. Doesn't happen all the time. Being very weird. But we will see you next time. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing if you're a subscriber. If you're not, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when we go live. And we will see you during the week, and then we will be ready for that FA Cup final, and then we will see you here back again for the Red Devil recap. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe, stay safe, and we will catch you on the next one.